Hi, you're on the Reddit Confessions channel. Today's story begins not with love, not with a wedding, not even with a meeting. It begins in the middle of a lie I pretended not to see. There was an empty wine glass next to me all evening. It sat on the table like it belonged to someone who had laughed there once, flirted there once, kissed someone there once. But all night no one claimed it. I didn't either. I just stared at it, pretending it meant nothing, pretending it wasn't a perfect metaphor for my marriage. My name is Ellis. I'm the kind of man who folds other people's laundry even when he didn't agree to wash it. I apologize to furniture when I bump into it. I say thank you to automatic doors. And I married a woman who once told me she loved that I was gentle. Now, I think she meant easily replaced. Juniper, that's her name, was across the room that night, at the rooftop party, dressed like she wanted to be photographed with someone taller, richer, better than me. I watched her laugh a little too loud at another man's jokes. I told myself she was networking. That's what she always called it. Funny word, networking. In our house, it meant putting on perfume and not coming home until 2 a.m. The moment that wrecked me wasn't loud. No slaps, no shouting, no shattering glasses. It was 6 words. I had just approached her near the terrace heaters. Her back was to me, but I knew her posture by heart. That tiny tilt of her head when she was impressed. The way she touched her earring when she flirted. She was doing both, with him. And when she finally turned and noticed me, her expression didn't change. Not even a flicker. She said, "Step aside or walk away." Just like that. No anger, no hesitation, no guilt. I didn't ask who he was. I didn't argue. I didn't ask her to explain. I just turned and left, without saying a word, without even blinking. Not because I was brave, because I had already lost her long before she said it out loud. And what hurts most? That night, not a single person tried to stop me, not even her. The next morning was colder than it should have been for spring. Not because of the weather, because of the silence. I woke up in a small, overpriced room at a chain hotel 3 miles from the rooftop party, with the imprint of my phone screen still on my cheek. I must have fallen asleep waiting for a message from her. But there was nothing. Not even a "where are you?" or "we need to talk." She didn't care where I had gone. Or maybe she knew exactly where I'd end up. I stared at the ceiling for a long time, wondering if she felt lighter without me around, like shedding a jacket that had grown too tight. I imagined her waking up next to someone else. No guilt, no pause, just brushing her hair, checking her emails, ordering coffee. Meanwhile, I sat there in wrinkled clothes, afraid to check our shared bank account. Afraid to scroll through photos, afraid of what I already knew but hadn't admitted out loud. It took me hours to return home. I drove past our block twice before finally pulling into the driveway. Milo, our dog, barked and scratched at the front door like he hadn't seen me in years. At least someone noticed I was gone. The house was quiet, too clean. There were fresh flowers on the counter, hydrangeas her favorite. That's when I saw it, a second coffee mug next to hers in the sink. It wasn't mine. I stood there, staring at it like it would explain everything. My hands trembled as I picked it up. Lipstick. Not Juniper's shade. That soft coral pink she always wore. This one was red, deep red. The kind she used to say looked too bold for her. I set the cup down and walked to the laundry room. The washer was running. Inside, I found a men's dress shirt I didn't recognize, ironed, lightly scented, folded on top of our towels. I didn't cry, not yet. I just sat on the floor and waited. I don't know for what, maybe some voice inside me to scream. But it didn't. All I had were quiet thoughts and the sound of my wife washing away the evidence before I even asked the questions. When Juniper finally walked in that evening, she didn't look surprised to see me. She just said, "You left your charger." That's it. No questions about why I left the party. No apology. No explanation. Just a deadpan comment about a piece of plastic. I asked her carefully, "Did someone else stay here?" She didn't even flinch. No. Then she turned her back and walked upstairs. In that moment, I realized she wasn't going to confess. She wasn't going to beg or lie or fight. She had already decided I didn't matter enough to explain anything to, and I was still holding on to the possibility that this was just a dream, that maybe she was testing me, that maybe I was being paranoid. But deep inside, something had finally snapped, not in a loud way, in a quiet, terrible, irreversible way. That night, I didn't sleep in our bed. I laid on the couch with a blanket that smelled like her shampoo, trying not to cry loud enough for Milo to hear. Because the truth is, I still loved her, even though she had already walked away from me long before I ever walked out of that party. The moment that finally made me stop pretending didn't happen at a party or in our bedroom or even face to face. It happened in a parking lot, inside her car, with the engine off and the air thick with the smell of old fast food and expensive perfume that didn't belong to me. I had gone looking for Milo's leash. She sometimes left it in the back seat after weekend trips to the dog park, and he'd chewed through our spare. But when I opened the passenger door, I saw something that didn't make sense. At least, not until it did. On the floor mat, there was a hotel key card, not from anywhere local. It was branded with the logo of a resort 2 cities away. The kind of place you'd go to unplug, drink overpriced cocktails by the pool, and maybe forget you were someone's wife. I picked it up like it might burn me. The name was partially scratched, but I recognized it. The same resort Juniper claimed she'd gone to for team building a few weekends ago. I remembered that trip clearly because she came home with a sunburn and a new necklace that she said was a gift from the company. I didn't say anything immediately. I could have waited by the door, confronted her with the card in my hand, demanded answers like a man in one of those movie scenes where the music swells and everything crashes into the truth. But I didn't. I sat in the car holding that stupid piece of plastic, and I broke. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just a single tear that slipped down my cheek while Milo sniffed the grass a few feet away, completely unaware that his owner's world was fracturing in slow motion. I didn't want to believe it, but I wasn't stupid. You don't forget a hotel key card in your car by accident. Not when you lied about where you were. Not when you came back with that glow in your eyes that wasn't about relaxation. I remembered the way she avoided my gaze the next morning. How she claimed the Wi-Fi was bad, and that's why she didn't text me much. How she didn't bring back any photos, even though she usually took dozens. That was the weekend I cooked for myself, and fell asleep, watching old home videos, thinking maybe she just needed space. But now I knew. Space wasn't what she needed. Space was what she had filled, with someone else. I placed the card back exactly where I found it. Not because I wanted to hide it, but because I wanted to see if she would. That night, I watched her walk to the car before her Pilates class. She didn't notice me watching through the blinds. She opened the passenger door, paused, bent down, and picked something up. Her head turned slowly toward the house. I stepped back before she could see me. She didn't say anything when she got back. Neither did I. We ate dinner in silence. Chicken, rice, roasted vegetables. The kind of meal you make when you're pretending everything is normal. I asked how her class went. She said it was fine. I nodded. Then I asked her if she wanted to watch something together. She said she was tired. I smiled and said, "Okay." That was the moment I realized we were both performing in a play neither of us believed in anymore, except one of us had already started rehearsing for a different role with someone new. Sometimes you don't need a confession. You just need a browser with a bad memory. That morning started like any other. She left early for a meeting downtown, her blazer still carrying the scent of whatever cologne wasn't mine. I waited until her car disappeared around the corner, not because I planned it, but because I couldn't take the gnawing ache anymore. Something in me had crossed a line, the kind of line you never step back over once you decide it's okay to search for what you're too scared to ask. I opened her laptop. It was sitting on the kitchen table, left open like it had nothing to hide, as if she was daring me. I didn't even have to guess the password. It was still the name of our dog, with a capital M and an exclamation point. How poetic. My hands shook as I sat down. I wasn't looking for anything specific. Honestly, I think I was hoping I'd find nothing, that I'd feel stupid and paranoid and crawl back into my self-made cocoon of denial. But the moment I clicked the search bar, everything cracked. There were 3 autofill suggestions. Secluded couples retreats near West Bridge. What if I don't love my husband anymore? And how to erase shared photos from cloud. My breath left my body like I'd been sucker punched. I clicked the first one. Her search history was still there. Dates, prices, map routes. One of them was the exact date of her conference weekend last month. She even compared rates with a romantic resort that advertised private decks, no interruptions. I felt like a fool for ever believing she went there to discuss blueprints and building codes. But that wasn't what destroyed me. It was the photo album. She hadn't logged out of the shared cloud. Either she forgot, or she thought I'd never dare to check. But there it was, a hidden folder marked with a dumb, innocent name, Weekend Extras. Inside were 15 photos. None of them were graphic, but they might as well have been. Her lying on a sunbed, smiling like a teenager, her sipping champagne in a robe with initials that weren't ours embroidered on the pocket, her holding someone's hand across a dinner table. I couldn't see the man's face, but his cufflink reflected candlelight, and her eyes looked alive in a way I hadn't seen in over a year. One photo broke me more than the others. She was laughing, chin tilted back, with her arms around his shoulders in front of a hotel sign. It was the same laugh she used to reserve for when I'd sneak up behind her and whisper something stupid while cooking. But this time, that joy wasn't for me. It never would be again. I didn't delete anything. I didn't confront her. I didn't throw things or scream into the walls. I just closed the laptop, stood up, and made myself a cup of tea like it was a regular Tuesday morning. But everything had changed. That little voice that kept whispering, "Maybe you're wrong," had finally shut up for good. I walked into the living room and sat next to Milo. He leaned into me like he knew. Animals are like that, loyal even when you're shattered. That night, when Juniper came home, she acted like nothing had happened. She kissed my cheek out of habit and asked if I wanted Thai or Italian for dinner. I told her I wasn't hungry. She didn't press. She just nodded and started ordering takeout on her phone, sitting 5 feet from me, like we weren't oceans apart. And I just stared at her, wondering how many lies a person can tell while still calling it love. I never thought the first person to tell me the truth would be someone from her side of the family, and certainly not Ivy, Juniper's younger sister. She always struck me as unpredictable, flighty, the kind of woman who'd cut her hair on impulse at 2 a.m. and call it liberation. She and Juniper had that hot and cold sibling dynamic that made holidays unpredictable, but she never once crossed a line with me, until the night she showed up on our porch, completely unannounced. It was late, somewhere around 10:30. I was still sitting in the living room, lights off. Milo curled at my feet, while a rerun played in the background. The knock startled me. It wasn't loud, but it was urgent, like someone who wasn't sure whether they wanted to be heard. I opened the door expecting a neighbor, maybe a package left behind, but there she was, Ivy, no makeup, hoodie too big for her frame, eyes red like she'd been crying for hours. "I need to talk to you," she said, before I could even ask what she was doing there. I let her in without a word. She didn't sit, she just paced. Back and forth, her sneakers scuffing the wood like she was trying to erase the floor with friction. Then she stopped and looked right at me, actually looked at me. "I can't do this anymore," she whispered. "I thought she was going to tell you. I really did." My heart dropped, but I stayed quiet. I'd gotten good at that lately. "She's been seeing someone for months, maybe longer. I found out by accident," she continued, voice trembling. "At first, I thought it was just a fling or some emotional thing she'd walk away from. But she's serious, Ellis. She's planning to leave." I didn't ask who the guy was. I didn't need a name anymore. The betrayal wasn't just in the man. It was in the planning, the intent, the slow, strategic unraveling of our life together, while she kept making me coffee and asking about my day. "I told her I wouldn't lie for her anymore," Ivy said, arms folded now, defensive but broken. "I told her either she tells you or I do, and here I am." I nodded slowly, processing the pain like it was trying to fit into my bones. "Why now?" I finally asked. Her answer was a knife. "She's moving out next week. That's what she told our mom. She's just trying to make it clean. No drama, no fight, just vanish." It was like hearing the autopsy report on a marriage that hadn't even had the decency to die properly. Not with a bang, not with a fight. Just a quiet disappearance of warmth and intention. Ivy looked at me like she expected me to break down. Maybe scream. Maybe thank her. But I didn't do either. I just stood there and whispered, "Thank you for telling me." And then I asked her to leave. Kindly, calmly. Because if I'd looked at her for even one more second, I might have collapsed. When the door closed behind her, I walked upstairs and stood in our bedroom. Juniper's side of the closet was still full. Her dresses, her scarves, her favorite boots lined up perfectly. But it all felt fake, like a display at a store, staged for strangers. She had already emotionally left me. She just hadn't packed yet. And now, I had 7 days to decide who I was going to be when she finally did. I didn't sleep the night Ivy came over. I tried. I lay in bed for hours with the pillow over my head and the weight of everything pressing on my chest like a slab of stone. But even when my eyes closed, my mind kept replaying that one sentence. She's planning to leave. Over and over. Not screamed, not cried, just calmly stated like a weather forecast. My wife was planning to disappear, and I wasn't even worth a conversation. Just the silence. The ease of pretending I'd never existed. By morning, something in me shifted. Not anger, not revenge, just resolve. If Juniper wanted a clean exit, she was going to get one, but not on her terms. She wasn't going to come home one evening and find me clinging to her hem, asking for closure. She wasn't going to pack her suitcase while I sat in the kitchen like a ghost sipping coffee. Number. If she wanted to vanish from my life, I was going to give her the space to walk into that void fully. But this time, I'd be the one who disappeared first. I started with something small, a text, one she wasn't expecting. It read, "Don't worry, you won't have to explain anything. I'll be gone before you are." I watched the screen after I sent it. No reply, just read receipts. It took her 13 minutes to open it. That's how long I stood in the hallway, heart pounding like I'd pulled the pin from a grenade. I expected a call, a confrontation, some vague attempt at denial or defense, but none came. That silence confirmed more than words ever could. I began clearing out the things that mattered most to me. My father's old records, a few books that had notes in the margins, notes Juniper had once made back when she used to read beside me on rainy Sundays. I packed my clothes quietly, left the suits she picked out, took the ones I bought for myself. I deleted my profile from the joint streaming account, canceled our shared calendar reminders. I erased myself from the background noise of her life. Every detail felt like peeling off a scab I had protected for too long. And then I did the one thing I swore I never would. I booked a place 2 towns over, a small month-to-month rental with a view of nothing and a couch that smelled like cleaning spray. It was ugly, bland, anonymous. But it was mine. I signed the lease under my name alone. When I told the landlord I'd be moving in that week, he asked if it was for work. I smiled and said, "No, it's just time." By the second day I had moved out most of what I needed. Juniper still hadn't replied. I left no letter, no key, just an empty drawer and the cold, quiet vacuum of absence. The night before I left for good, I stood in the middle of our kitchen and looked around. The wine glasses were still drying on the rack. The fridge had sticky notes with half-planned meals. On the corkboard was a photo of us from a fall trip 3 years ago. Her in a beanie, me holding a thermos, both of us smiling like time couldn't touch us. I took that photo down, not to keep it, but because I didn't want her to walk into that kitchen and pretend. 2 days passed before I heard from her. I was sitting on the stained sofa in my new place, watching the kind of reality TV I used to mock, when my phone lit up with her name. Just Juniper, no heart emoji, no photo. The contact had long reverted to default after I stopped pretending we were okay. I stared at the screen for a while, then let it ring out. No voicemail, just a second text, short and sharp. "Where are you?" No, "Hey." No concern, just control. I didn't answer. I placed the phone face down and let her words sit there like a ticking bomb I refused to touch. But she didn't like being ignored, not Juniper. The next hour brought 3 more texts and finally a call. I answered, not because I wanted to talk, but because I wanted to hear the voice of someone who had carefully dismantled my world, piece by piece, and thought I'd stay seated through it all. "Ellis," she said quickly, "what are you doing?" I could hear traffic behind her. She was walking somewhere. Not home, not the office. Somewhere unfamiliar. Her voice wasn't angry, not yet, just unsettled. Like the rhythm of her plan had been disrupted, and she didn't know which script to follow anymore. "I left," I replied. "Just like you planned to." There was a pause. Then, with forced calm, "What are you talking about?" It would have been funny if it didn't sting. The sheer audacity of pretending, of playing innocent now, when even her sister had broken down under the weight of it. I didn't shout. I didn't accuse. I simply told her what I knew, about Ivy, about the hotel key card, about the search history, about the fake meetings and the photo album. Silence. And then, finally, her voice cracked. Not with guilt, but with something colder. You had no right to go through my stuff. That was it. That was her first response. Not an apology, not even a denial, just a complaint that I'd crossed a line into a privacy she'd already torn to pieces on her own. I had every right, I said. It was my life too. She didn't argue, just breathed heavily, as if realizing the conversation wasn't going to go how she expected. I was going to talk to you. I just needed time. Time to what? Replace me? I asked. Another pause. I could practically hear her mind scrambling, building the next excuse. But this time, she didn't have one. Instead, she said, "You blindsided me." And that's when I knew she wasn't devastated that I'd left. She was devastated that she didn't get to do it first, that I took back control without the scene, the guilt, the narrative she had likely prepared for her friends and family. "Take care of yourself, Juniper," I said before ending the call. I didn't block her. I didn't send follow-up messages. I just let her words fade into static and moved on with my evening. For the first time in months, I slept without waking up at 3 a.m., questioning if I was imagining everything. The next morning, I found out she had been calling my mother, texting Ivy, trying to triangulate where I had gone like I was some lost dog. But she never once said the word sorry, never asked what she had done, only demanded answers to questions she never gave me the courtesy of asking herself. She didn't want me back. She just hated that I slipped away before she could slam the door. The house looked smaller when I came back. It had only been 3 weeks since I left, but it felt like walking into a version of my life that no longer fit. Juniper wasn't home. She'd agreed to be out that morning, just like I requested in the message I sent her. Short, polite, detached. "I'll come by to collect the last of my things. Please give me space. No goodbyes." The living room was the same rug, same throw pillows. But it didn't smell like home anymore. It smelled like distance, like air that hadn't been touched by love in a long time. I moved quickly, boxing up a few forgotten books, a small frame photo of my dad, and Milo's leash. I wasn't going to take anything that didn't belong to me, not anymore. Then I saw it. On the table, in my old chair, a letter, handwritten. The envelope said, "Ellis." Inside, there were 3 pages filled with words I had once begged for. Explanations, apologies, confessions. She said things like, "I never stopped loving you, but I lost myself," and "I thought I'd find something I was missing, but I just lost you instead." She talked about fear, about guilt, about how watching me leave without a single cruel word hurt more than anything she expected. But it was too late. Not out of spite, out of survival. I folded the letter, placed it in my bag, and left her a note of my own. Just one line. "Thank you for the honesty. I forgive you. Take care of yourself." I didn't sign it. She'd know. When I walked out of that house for the last time, I didn't feel broken. I felt free. Not because the pain was gone, but because it no longer controlled me. I didn't need closure. I was the closure. I didn't need her to see my worth. I had finally started seeing it myself. Now, weeks later, I'm in a new place. Small kitchen, cheap art on the walls, quiet evenings. But I'm not lonely. I walk Milo every morning. I cook for myself. I read again. Real books, not just articles about how to save a marriage. I even went to a weekend history lecture downtown, just because it sounded interesting. The man I was before the party, the one who folded himself into the background for the sake of keeping peace, he's gone. And the man who replaced him. He's still learning how to stand tall, but he's not afraid anymore. Sometimes life doesn't give you the answers you want. Sometimes people won't choose you, even when they promise they would. But sometimes walking away, quietly, without drama, is the most powerful thing you can do. I didn't need to ruin her life. I just needed to reclaim mine. And now, for the first time in a long time, I'm okay. Thank you for joining this journey on Reddit Confessions. Tell us in the comments, have you ever experienced a moment in life where walking away gave you back your strength? Or maybe a historical moment where someone's quiet exit changed everything? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories just like this. You're always welcome here on Reddit Confessions.